I'm from Nelson.
When have you ever been embarrassed?
I'm a lawyer, but before I studied law, I studied science. I've got a degree in microbiology and biochemistry. I was a health protection officer, so I was doing pretty much the same job that the contact tracers are doing for the government now. I understand all these issues. I understand what should be happening, and right from the start I was asking a whole lot of questions about why they were doing what they were doing when it wasn't what they should have been doing, and it certainly wasn't what we were taught that you would do if there really was a scary epidemic. And I've been sort of sitting watching the last few months unfold like a really badly played chess game, going, surely they're not going to do that next, surely they're not, and then they do. And then the next move, and you go, no, they wouldn't do that, would they? And then they do. And I think what happened was it was so bold what happened that we're all taken by surprise. Like we're going, no, this can't be right, you know. And it is scary. Is there this nasty virus that's really going to destroy our community? And nobody wants to sort of step out and say, hey, the emperor's got no clothes, just in case you're wrong. It is a little bit scary when you step out and say that. But I think where we've got to now is something has gone badly wrong, right from the way this has been handled, and it's been an excuse to take away more and more of our rights and to divide and conquer the people so that the people have lost their power. And while we were locked up at home, for example, objecting to 5G as one example, we had a complaint in Parliament through the New Zealand Outdoors Party complaining about the loss of democracy with 5G and saying that we needed more stringent standards and we needed consultation. We needed questions. Do we even want 5G? Why do we want driverless cars? And why do we want all these things? And are we prepared to run the risk and the surveillance, everything else? So we had all these questions. We had a date penciled in for a hearing in Parliament on the 29th of April. Suddenly there's COVID. Everything stops. The only laws they pass are the laws that they want to pass, not the laws that we want to pass, or that we want passed. And we realise that the whole basis of democracy has just sort of disappeared before our very eyes. And now, how many people have had COVID in New Zealand? Or, you know, what they said, about 20 have died or something, but it turns out that a lot of those didn't die of COVID anyway. I personally know people whose family members have been classified as a COVID death, and the family themselves say they weren't. And more are coming forward all the time. So we know that there's been a lot of lies told to us, and if it really was as serious as it needed to be, why do they need to tell us any lies at all? As soon as they tell us lies, it really makes you wonder and say, what the heck is going on here? What is this other agenda? Why are they not representing us, the people of New Zealand, who they're elected to represent? Why are they doing something else? Who are they representing? Why are they doing that? So you start asking more and more of these questions and start connecting with different groups who are also asking questions. So I'm down here in Christchurch today. I've been protesting in Nelson since the very first week of lockdown, and I protest by saying I'm going 5 grocery shopping because that was the only thing we're allowed to do, and I made myself a sort of yellow, it's around here somewhere, the yellow banner that I just sort of wore like a shawl and took in the grocery shop. We actually got a few others turned up on the same day. We got kicked out of one grocery queue for, they didn't want us there, but it was actually quite good because that was an excuse to go for a walk to the next grocery shop and hang out there until they kicked us out there, and then the next grocery shop until they kicked us out there as well. So we've been out every week in Nelson, and as I started looking into it more and I started asking more questions and saying, for example, why can't people go fishing and boating and kayaking? What on earth can a virus have to do with that? So when I looked up the law, it actually said they can stop congregations of people in the outdoors. There was never, ever a law that let the government stop individuals or family groups or people within a single bubble from going and doing outdoor activities. They just made that up. And then not only did they make up the law, but they encouraged people to dob in other people for breaking the law that they'd made up that wasn't a law.
It's communism.
And then gets a bit crazy because then the Minister of Health got into trouble for breaking a law that wasn't a law. So the whole thing just became a bigger and a bigger mess. But so what happened, I actually wrote to the Prime Minister and I wrote to the Attorney General and I wrote to the Nelson Police and I said, look, you've got this wrong. This order that you've made that we can't go outdoors and undertake, boating and kayaking and things is actually an illegal claim. I'm going. Unless you can give me your interpretation, show me why I'm wrong, I'm going. So I went out paddleboarding during level 4 lockdown and I live streamed myself paddleboarding because it's a really good way of getting awareness. I had a whole bag, a plastic bag full of legal papers just in case the police came and stopped me so I could say, no, this is actually what the law says. But they were smart enough to not come and stop me. They've actually been, and I must say the police have actually been pretty good in Nelson. They recognise that we know what we're talking about and that they're in a really embarrassing position themselves. And so it's kind of mutual respect. They leave us alone to do what we want to do, and we don't set the boundaries, but we push the boundaries because if we don't push the boundaries shift towards us. I'm a big believer. I never want to cross the boundary, but I want to operate right up against the boundary because anything that you don't do from the boundary, you're basically losing your rights. So we're in a really interesting position in New Zealand now where we've kind of been increasingly silenced in a whole lot of different issues. I've been following a lot of the resource management issues with poisons and with 5G, for example, and way before 5G, I acted for the Aspire community in Nelson. Telecom wanted to put a cell tower 5 metres from our local play centre. And so the community was great back then. And back then, we actually could go to Parliament and we could object to it. We actually had MPs, Sue Kedgley and Marion Street from Labour, who actually came and supported our community. We could actually get a hearing, but what's happened since then? Well, we're in Parliament then saying we don't want a cell tower 5 metres from the play centre. The then Minister for the Environment was changing the law, taking away the rights to protest about cell towers. So that's been going on since 2008, but they've been changing every few years to give themselves even more rights to restrict us even more. So none of this, what's happening now, is new, it's just the next step. And the way I see it, it's like going down a big funnel. And the further you get down the funnel, the less rights you've got and the less chance you've got to get out of the funnel. And we're quite far down the funnel now because we've lost a lot of the rights that we used to have. But since when did we have to ask our government if we can go outside and hug our friends and go and do things on the street? Why are we even recognising these laws? We've sort of been brainwashed to think that they've got a right to tell us what we can and can't do. But if we stop and think about it, we're all people. What's the point of being a person if you can't choose who your friends are and where you go and what you do? I think we've actually got to flip the whole thing over and start asking these questions and start asking what it means to be a human, what it means to be a community, what it means to have freedoms and rights. Because freedoms and rights, if they could be taken away every time there's a panic or a theoretical panic, if they can be taken away at every threat, they're not actually rights and freedoms at all. So there's been a whole lot of groups all around New Zealand coming together trying to do a whole lot of different things because people in their gut know that it's not right and they don't always have the words to express it, but they know that it doesn't feel right. So we've set up a group called Let's Create a People's Constitution for New Zealand. And the reason for that, what most people don't know, in New Zealand we have no fundamental rights. So we have the New Zealand Bill of Rights and we have the Treaty of Waitangi and we have various old different documents, but all of them can be overridden by an Act of Parliament. So 51% votes of current MPs can take away absolutely any of what we believe, or what we used to believe were our fundamental rights. So
Even the treaty? Can I just, I love what you're hearing, but even they can take the treaty away as well, do you think?
The treaty is the treaty, so it's a contract between Maori and the government.
Yeah.
But in an Act of Parliament, they can still undermine the treaty. They can still pass an act of parliament that says, for example, look, we believe the threat of COVID virus or the threat of influenza virus or the threat of whatever is so serious that the treaty rights are not going to apply and we're going to do whatever we want to do instead. And so that's a really fragile position for the people to be in. So
what if people believe that bullshit? You know, if people don't believe that bullshit, then it's bullshit.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Exactly. It's only got as much power as we give it. If everybody stepped up and said, look, actually, I'm going to hug my next door neighbour and I'm going to go shopping wherever I want to go shopping and I want to do whatever I want to do. If everybody did that, what are they going to do about it? They can only do it because we've all been sort of intimidated that we might get into trouble if we do something that they don't want us to do. But if we say, no, hang on, you guys, you represent us and we don't like your laws, we're not going to obey those laws because they're actually contrary to fundamental rights and freedoms, contrary to natural justice, we're not going to obey those things anymore. So we do have a choice, and what's really awesome is seeing so many people interested in engaging in this conversation and finding our voices again. So we've been doing this walk, talk and chalk, which is just a way of getting people to think and to just have a bit of fun. Like, it's quite fun talking and having your voice and saying what you want to say. Yeah, we've all been told what we think doesn't matter because we're not an economist or we're not a scientist or we're not a whatever. But actually we're all people and we've all got views and our views are all really, really important. So part of what I'm really keen to do is get people engaged back into making the decisions. Because if we all go, oh look, I'm nothing to do with politics, I don't like politics and I don't like all these, we're giving them all a free run. The only way that we can make a difference is to say, well, we don't like the way you're doing politics now, but we actually want to do it a different way, and we're all going to step up and we're going to unite together and we're going to choose our own representatives that are going to do it a different way, and we're going to make it how we want it to be, and we're going to have politics that's for the people of New Zealand, not for the 1% of the multinationals and whatever. It's for the people. So, look, there's loads of stuff I can talk about for hours and hours, but really what I wanted to do today, I do want to introduce the New Zealand Outdoors Party because Alan and I have come down, Alan's from Turangi, and we've come down from Nelson to talk about the Outdoors Party and introduce that today because the whole lot, and also we want to introduce Charlotte and Darlene and Heidi wherever Heidi's gone.
Dan.
And Dan,
Where's
who's
Dan?
been helping us, and a whole bunch of people that are increasingly helping us, and if anyone else wants to get involved and help us, that would be really brilliant because we need numbers, we need as many numbers as possible. Thank you.
I've got a question. So who do you think we should vote for in the next election?
The New Zealand Outdoors Party.
Well, okay, I've never heard of that party before, but seriously, I don't want to waste my vote.
Yep.
And the National Party's just as bad.
Yes.
New Zealand First, you thought they had some things, but then they went and brought this government in.
Yeah.
So, a serious vote.
A serious vote is everybody unite together and work out what's the most important thing. And if everybody who really didn't like the current system, because to be honest, National Labour are different sides of the same coin.
Yes, that's right.
You're voting, you're not actually choosing one or the other, you're choosing the same thing, or you can choose something different. So that's really what we're trying to do, the Outdoors Party, is say, here's a party for the people. The whole purpose is to empower people and communities to take back New Zealand for us. So it's hard, it's really hard starting a new party, but if everybody here goes away and tells 10 people or 100 people, and ask them to tell another 10 people or 100 people, because you're not going to see us on mainstream media because they don't like the message we've got because it doesn't fit their message. The only way we can do it. It's a chance. Look, for me, I'm going to give it my best shot for the next 4 months, and if the people want us to do it, we'll do it. We'll be there. We're 100% committed. If the people say, oh, it's too scary, and we'll just default back to what we've got because we're really not brave enough to step up and do something else. Okay, well, I've given it my best shot. That's all I can do.
What was it?
Two questions, please. First one was, I'd love to know, sorry, I've been waiting a while. What was this about? Let's create a constitutional da-da-da-da-da
Yep.
group. And how do we protect ourselves from being arrested? How do we
Okay.
go to it?
the Let's Create a People's Constitution for New Zealand is set up on Facebook, and it's basically to pull together ideas about how we can have a constitution that is at the very top level, so that it's not subservient to the whim of the current parliament. It's basically rules that the people write. It could be like the American Constitution, but it can be adapted for New Zealand for what we want. And obviously going to factor in the Treaty of Waitangi and other rights and commitments for the culture of New Zealand. So we set up that as the highest level, and then we have to decide who's going to enforce that. And my view is that it shouldn't be the current politicians or court system that enforce the people's constitution. It should be the people that enforce the people's constitution. So we'd have some kind of grand jury system that decides whether new laws comply with the people's constitution or not. And if they don't comply, then they're not binding laws. Dan's got an amazing system of wisdom of the people and a way of involving the people in democracy. So we're just talking to Dan about how we might be able to factor in that kind of thinking as well. But the whole idea is no point having a people's constitution if you then give it back to the same politicians and the same judges and the same whatever to just say, oh well, you know, yeah, you think you've got those rights, but we don't really like them because it doesn't fit our system, so we're going to ignore them. You know, we've got to have a whole way of putting it together. Your second question about if the police try and arrest you,
Yeah, when you're
standing together here.
yes, or anything of that.
So far it's the wisdom of the police and they haven't bothered us. But yesterday we were just getting some dinner and the owner of the restaurant said the police had been in there 5 times yesterday.
In Christchurch, we have the highest amount of prosecutions in the country, a very disproportionate amount of prosecutions. I think Auckland had none. We're the highest in the country.
For the COVID lockdown?
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Well, find out what they're prosecuting for, but if they're prosecuting for any of the things that were illegal laws in the first place, let's have a look at them and defend them. I'm dying to challenge some of these illegal prosecutions.
Shall I say that Sue Gray's defending me and I'll get back to her and I won't
Yep.
say anything?
Look, well, people ask me all the time, if the police turn up at my house, what do I do? The first thing is turn on your phone and your video and video everything. So you've got a really good record of what happens. The second thing is ask them, why are you here? And get them to explain, who are you, why are you here? Am I given a choice if you come into my house, or are you forcing entry into my home? If you're forcing entry in my home, have you got a search warrant? Can I see the search warrant? Now there are some cases under the new law where they don't need a search warrant, but let's ask them anyway, because even in the, we haven't tested the New York law yet, but under the old law, even when they didn't legally need a search warrant, the court said that the principle of what's called the warrant preference rule, they should get a warrant if they could get a warrant, in case it was still be worked out, if they had an opportunity to get a warrant and they didn't. So ask for a warrant every time. Ask all the questions, because if you don't ask the questions, they say, oh well, you consented to me coming in. Okay, so the more questions you ask, the harder it makes it. And you can ask really nicely. You don't have to be aggressive or anything. I had that conversation with the police and managed to get it live streamed while I was having the conversation at Nelson. When we were doing some talking at the supermarket, and the one lady didn't like it, and the supermarket guy called the police. But the police came, we had a really good conversation. I said, look, you guys must be feeling really bad being asked to enforce illegal laws. You know, like, we really feel sorry for you for the position that you've been put in too. And they're sort of saying, yeah, we do, sort of thing. And so, I mean, everyone's doing their jobs, and I understand that they're doing their jobs, but still, we all have to decide what side of history we want to be on, and are we going to fight for our rights when we have a chance to do that, and stand up for our rights and hear information and educate, or are we just going to say, oh well, you know, they told me I had to do it, so I just sort of did nothing. And for me, what we actually need as much as anything is courage. Yeah.
Hold on, turn out. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. So we need to talk. We need to share ideas. We need to get ourselves informed. We need to find networks so that we're not alone. And we need courage. We need courage to stand up and say, hey, we've had enough. We're not doing this anymore.
Absolutely. Where does personal sovereignty come in your scheme of things?
Yeah, so look, I studied law at Auckland University. They don't teach you about personal sovereignty, they don't teach you about many of these other things. And so I only know as much about that as I've learned, and which probably a lot of you will know at least as much as me. But whichever way.
It's fundamental to human rights. It's more fundamental than that. Each person has if they are empowered, then somebody out there who's inappropriate comes along and you just tell them, no, that's not the story. If they're standing in their own power, it's increasing that power.
Yeah, well, I mean, whichever way you look at it, and that's a good way of looking at personal sovereignty, but as Christians, for example, with mandatory vaccination, if we can have a forced injection into our body, what have we got, really? I mean, if your body is not your own sacred thing that you can make your own choices over, what have we got? So there's all these questions, and look, I don't know the answers to all the questions either. I'm learning as fast as I can and talking to as many people as I can. But all I can say is get as informed as you can and talk to people, and let's find our voice and let's tell people this is, we don't have to do this. This is not okay. We invented this game, What's Your Line, because there's quite a division between the people that weren't happy about the way things were and the people that thought, oh, the system's okay and it's looking after us. But what's your line is everybody's got a line when they're going to say it's not okay for someone to do that to me. And it's just a case of finding what that line is. And then once people realise that they have got a line, then they're open to thinking about other people's lives. So it was really a way of having a conversation and thinking about new ways of thinking about things. We've all got a line. My line might, I don't want a compulsory vaccination for myself or my kids. I've got a lot of lines. But everybody's got lines. Even the people that think that they've got no lines and they trust the system, they've got lines when they start thinking about it. So one of the things we were doing was with the talking and walking, talk, is what's your line, and getting people to think about that. So hey, I feel like I've spoken loads.
A question. So do you know why they're doing it? Why they're doing all this?
Well, look,
If you don't, I do. And I'd be happy to talk about it for a minute.
yeah. Well, look, yeah, look, I'm really happy for everyone to have a say. You come and go. Hi, this is just an off-the-cuff thing, but I just think it's really important for us to know. It's a globalisation, so it's the world agenda of globalisation. Now, I don't know if you know, but
I've only got video.
was the head of the Socialist